NFL Week 6 was crazy. We saw a bunch of touchdowns. We saw a bunch of defensive stances. We saw some missed calls. Week 6 provided us NFL fans with exactly what we're looking for, which is what we're looking for week in and week out in the NFL. And that's basically just good football. And I think week 6, we were able to get that. So we're trying a new thing here. I'm going to give you the 6 craziest stats from week 6 NFL action, and you let me know how crazy you think these stats are. So stat number 1, Raheem Mostert of the Miami Dolphins put up a stat that we've never seen before, and that is pretty impressive. No running back since 1966 has averaged more than 5.3 yards per carry. He just surpassed 2 great NFL running backs in Bo Jackson and Jamal Charles. Crazy part of that is he's 31 years old. Can you believe that? A 31-year-old running back in a league where they get rid of running backs nice and young is able to put up the best season of his career at 31 years old. But despite him being 31, you got to remember he has fresh legs because his workload, because of injuries mostly, hasn't been that of a normal 31-year-old, more of a workload of like a 25-year-old. Overall, Mostert is putting up some amazing stats, and so are the Miami Dolphins as a team in general. Right, so defensive pass interference. We saw Darren Waller be missed for one. That was very, very obvious. That maybe cost the Giants the football game. But listen to this stat here. In 2014, there were 511 defensive holding/PI calls in the NFL that season. On pace for only 334 with one less extra game. Remember, we do have 17 games now versus 16 in 2014. This is probably a continuation of why we have lower scoring and more frustration by fans. And overall, I have to say, I'm a fan of calling less flags. The less flags in an NFL game, probably the better, right? We have more consistency. We're able to get the flow of the game going a little bit more. So the less flags, to me, the actual better for the NFL product. But overall, you can see why a lot of people were disappointed in what happened to the Giants game, because holding that flag probably cost them the football game. Some other factors behind this are probably bad offensive line, so quarterbacks aren't holding the ball as long, which doesn't give enough time for defensive holding to develop. COVID years, less crowd noise, less stadiums, probably in general, defense gets away with a little bit more of them now. And of course, there's no Joe Flacco, so Joe Flacco was the king of getting the PI call. Crazy stat number 3 has to do with Justin Herbert. So on Monday Night Football, Justin Herbert threw his 13th career interception in the fourth quarter of a one-score game. That's 5 more than any QB since he entered the league in 2020. And somehow on his career, he's exactly 500. But if somehow you don't find Justin Herbert to be the best quarterback in the NFL or the best thrower of a football, or there was even a time people were saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes, you were ridiculed. You would say you didn't understand the game of football. People blame Brandon Staley. People blame everything except Justin Herbert. And maybe it's some time now we got to look at Justin Herbert and say, hey, man, you got to take that next big step before we start talking about you being part of a problem with the Los Angeles Chargers. Stat number 4, week 6 finished with the lowest points per game in the NFL since week 15, 2014. And that's with the Miami Dolphins being able to sling the ball around. The Dolphins had 40 plus points, so they skewed that number a little bit. On average, there was only 36.7 points per game in the NFL this week, the lowest, as I said, since that 2014 season. And overall, that just means like less quality football. I think fans in general have been clamoring for, we love defense, we want some more defense back. And then when defense occurs, they actually want some more scoring, because scoring sells tickets, points sell tickets. In general, I think this is going to be a common problem here in the NFL until the offensive lines get a little bit better. But overall, this kind of goes with what we said earlier about the pass interference calls. In general, we're going to see a little bit of lower scoring in the NFL. Next stat is Bill Belichick and Sean Payton are 2 coaches with the lowest records in the AFC. Man, 2 Hall of Fame coaches with that bad of records. It's pretty absurd. And it goes what I've been saying for a while. If you listen to our Seattle podcast or this podcast in general, or any podcast that I'm on in general, is I don't think these grumpy coaches work anymore. We've seen Nick Saban struggling for the first time in a very long time this year in Alabama. And I think in general, a younger generation now just doesn't really accept these coaches who are grumpy, in your face. They want someone more progressive, Pete Carroll, Sean McVay, someone who's going to be more their friend, Nick Sirianni, someone who's going to relate to them more. And Sean Payton and Bill Belichick are just grumpy dudes who aren't that relatable. And I think that is kind of affecting their coaching on the field. I don't expect either one of them to ever turn it around and win a Super Bowl again in their career. And the last crazy stat is Desmond Ridder of Atlanta Falcons, their quarterback, lost his first home game in 31 games. He hadn't lost a home game in college or the NFL. Crazy stat. I was shocked by that. Like, Desmond Ridder never lost a game in college or the NFL. Well, he didn't at home. He finally lost a home game. He doesn't, like, at times, he just doesn't seem like the best option for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sure they're going to be one of the teams looking for a future quarterback starting next season. But that stat, to me, I found it pretty crazy that Desmond Ridder literally had never lost a home game, 31 in a row, going into this Sunday at home. And I didn't even know that, but I still bet on the Falcons, so I guess I still made the mistake of riding the Desmond Ridder train. So those are all the crazy stats of NFL Week 6. I'm sure Week 7 is going to have us some crazy stats. If you know any crazy stats yourself, please put a comment in there. And please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. And guys, thank you for stopping by.